the one person that I expect perfection from is God. Like he's the one person that is always going to give me security, comfort, and love. It's God first that I need to honor. So yeah. I think it's grown more as in my awakening as well as becoming a young woman, in that the first person is God, who's my father, and then my earthly father is my father. He's flawed, so in as much as yes, I love him very much, deeply, but he's a human being. Human beings are flawed, but God is number one.
That's so good. But thank you for sharing that. And as you were talking, I was just thinking how I came to a place of that all my cares, all my worries, all my provision comes from him, my protection comes from him. And it wasn't, now I don't need anything from my earthly father, but it was, I'm more dependent on God the
definitely.
Father. And I just want to read this on reframing our identity. God helps us to reframe our identity and to encourage someone that even if you felt like there were that you had a present father, or where you had a present father, or a father that was in the home but they were not present emotionally, or a father that you saw once here and then, or just you didn't have a father altogether. I think God helps us to feel a sense of belonging, a sense of feeling worthy and not rejected by people, by men. And when I mean men, I mean like human beings, and not to fear having relationships, because one of the symptoms of just having daddy issues is maybe fearing to have relations, or fearing that people will leave. And knowing God as a father can help see ourselves deeply loved, and in the way that God sees us as his children, and not being defined by our earthly father's failures, but by God's acceptance. And I think that was so true for me when I got to a place of forgiveness and just freedom. I also had this conversation with my dad where it got to a space of like forgiveness, because I had been harboring all of this in me, and I've like talked about it in therapy over the years, and I had never confronted him like, oh, why were you not there, and stuff like that. And I think it must have been 2 years back, or even less than then, where I felt like, okay, we came to a point of this tension was kind of now coming to be peace, and it's God that
very freeing, isn't it? It is.
It's God that allows that, and it empowers us to forgive in spaces where we can say, you are not there, but like, what about now? What is happening now? And not to excuse the wrongdoing, not to
100%.
excuse what people not being responsible or taking responsibility or not being accountable, but it's to say, like, I'm older and I've seen now my friends who go through the same thing, that baby daddies just disappearing off the face of the earth. God empowers us to forgive and to free ourselves from being bitter. And look, when you look at someone, if you have unforgiveness in your heart, we look at them and it takes you back. It always takes you back. And that person is living their lives, and you're here like, how could they live their lives, and here I am dealing with such and such and such. And you know what, it's healing is a progressive journey. You can never arrive in a place of healing. There will be things that will be triggering things along the way, but
no, definitely. Just to add on to that, with my experience, with my own experience when it comes to that, I think it was in my mid-20s when I was telling you when my dad pursued me, but during that period, I remember like being so conflicted and being so mad and angry, and I had even gone to stay at my grandmother's place, but obviously I still went to church every Sunday. You know, hey guys, teaches forgiveness, preaching. And then I remember coming to a conclusion, you know, would say, ultimately, God, you know, our parents, you've entrusted them to raise us, you know, but we don't belong to them, you know, and that's how I made peace with that situation. And then I was able to meet my dad halfway as well, you know, and we got to that place of forgiveness and understanding, and it's like, you know, so I had to come to that. I would say they've just been entrusted to raise us, but if they fail, it's not it's not up to them, you know, it's just them having faith at what God had entrusted them to do, you know, but the onus is on you because you know better, you know, not that you know better, but they've given you faith, you know, so if there's one thing right, they definitely did is that. So everything else navigated with your own relationship with God. So being in relationship with Him is definitely very important.
Yeah, that's so true. And I thought as well, not only does our relationship with God help us to forgive, it also helps us to heal our view of love as it relates to romantic relationships and maybe like other relationships that where you felt like unforgiveness, or I think in relation to what we're talking about the impact of having like father-daughter relationships and the impact that it has on romantic relationships. And when we look at God, He heals our view of love. If we've experienced neglect, abandonment, or unhealthy love from people, and maybe in our romantic relationships, or we feel like neglected. And in Jeremiah 31:3 it says, God's love is constant and faithful. And when we receive God's love, we stop seeking validation from a partner. That, man, when you get that freedom and you enter into the relationship with God and you form a place of security, because you're like, well, that didn't work out. Fine. You're not like, oh, why? And now you start looking at yourself differently, or you're just like, okay.
I love growing up so much.
Yeah, like
I love it. I love it.
And I think my final thoughts on love, romantic relationships, and trusting God, and trusting men. I think I'm at a point where this year God has really been challenging me to trust Him more. And I think once that relationship of trust has been established and understanding what trusting God means, I think now it's like, okay, I can trust God, you know. And once that relationship is restored and you understand that God can never fail us, God is honest, God is trustworthy, and what I hold on to is God is worthy to be trusted. Like, He is worthy. It doesn't matter how I feel, it doesn't matter. God is worthy to be trusted. And with that reflection, then I can be like, okay, God, you're worthy to be trusted. So if I put my relationship with my dad in your hands, you're worthy to be trusted. You are going to be faithful in growing us in that relationship. And it has been amazing to grow that relationship with my dad, being able to rely on him. Like, you know, like before I came to London, like, and I was feeling uncertain, I was calling him like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. You know, like nothing seems like it's working. And because as a man of faith, I believe that also has just like seeing him trust God and seeing him being like after God and having a zeal for the things of God has also encouraged me, because I can see him holistically. And now I can rely on him. I can say, hey, I need this, can you please do this for me? And we're building that relationship as we are growing older. And I think even having that relationship at later stage in life, I'm still very appreciative of that relationship. yeah, what are your final thoughts?
This was a very interesting conversation. This was a very interesting conversation, but I think final thoughts for me, following from today's conversation, is that number one, God is our Father, right? He's our Father first, and healing also comes from God, and when it comes to our earthly fathers as well, they're human beings, they're human beings, they are flawed, but God is not flawed. So, yeah.